We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto, stay with this channel. Turn on alerts and follow Discord so you know when we're going live. And if the content works for you, please hit the like button. I don't think I've ever said this, but the channel where you get notified, I think Monique notifies everybody. And then there's also the Bill Alerts channel inside Discord. So do check that out. All right, let's welcome who's here. Alexandra first on the stream. Welcome. All right, we have Kay. Good morning. Much love from Turkey overseas. Welcome. Huey, hello. Ian, Double Ace, Thomas, Tanya, welcome to the show. Welcome. Huber's Ranch, Justin, Jelster, whoa. Crypnotic, what's going on? Lee, Shelly, Warmon, Jelster, Stefan, Gian, Sean, welcome to the show. Railroaded is here, Malik, Leo, and Hasty Clip to round out the early group. All right. So we're going to do some news and we're going to do some charts, but we all know what this basically comes down to. It comes down to the U.S. election. Now, let's fireside chat this a little bit just to start. A brief monologue. Last night, the dollar index kind of cracked. It went down kind of suddenly. And I have a feeling that whatever happened with the bond market on Friday, which to keep it simple was very, very strange, has spilled over into the currency market. 10 words or less, bonds should have gone up after the payroll number, and they went down hard. So legacy markets, I think, are tired of fiscal irresponsibility. And to be completely honest, they're worried about either a tight election or they're worried about Trump's tax policies. One of the things that I've talked about on the show is that basically Trump is a capital markets friendly outcome, right? The Trump trades is what the media keeps calling it. All right. That may not be true. At least it may not be bond market friendly. And if it's not bond market friendly, then you can have strange chain reactions. So this is not about really the man or the woman or, the parties or anything like that. It's what the market perceives about their policies. And I'm getting this like creepy sense, which is good for Bitcoin and probably Solana, that the market smells fiscal irresponsibility, which could hurt bonds. It could definitely tank the dollar because that's way overdue, right? Way overdue, as anybody who's been listening to the show knows. And the impact on equities is I don't know. Let's call that neutral. I'm not going to figure that out around an event like this. Okay, let's talk about events. When you have something like this go on, the first couple trades are usually wrong. Okay. So everyone was like, well, let's buy Bitcoin and stocks headed into the election. Bullish sentiment got really high and then it comes off. So in a sense, it was sell the fact well before the election, a week before. Now we're probably going to have these trades where you're going to have massive intraday volatility. It'll go up, everything will look amazing, it'll come off. Right. And then it'll go down. Everybody will go, oh my God. And then Bitcoin and Solana will come back up. Now, if you've got an altcoin, I just get this sense. If you got an altcoin that can't participate in any rally or didn't participate in the last rally, right? And it doesn't participate in any rally that happens like after the election, like if they try to start a Santa trade, dump it. So I did like a Kaizen podcast with like a couple of our analysts, and they made this really great point that, there are a lot of coins out there that are in like, the applications or their critical infrastructure, But then when we went over like newer stuff, right, I just got this sense that like we talked about it, like how many ETH layer 2s do we need? You know what I'm saying? Like we need base, right? Base could be winner take all. So if that's true, then you might look at the rest of the altcoin market and be like, do we need all this? Now, the good news is Kaizen is very big into base, which to me feels like a winner take all network. So that's the great news, right? But the rest of this market, like outside of Solana, outside real world assets, outside maybe like a couple of AI related products, the rest of this market could be vulnerable if you don't get some sort of exciting bull market that kicks right off. Now, I think you might, but there's a new key takeaway, and then I'm going to the news. If you got something that's not performing, and you don't absolutely believe it in like a deep spiritual sense, dump it in favor of what's working after the election, right? Don't sit around in last cycle's, crap, okay? Let's get what's new. Let's get what's hot. Let's get what makes money. Let's get Bitcoin. Let's get what Solana. Let's get what works. Okay. Okay. So let's with that monologue out of the way, because I understand people actually like the monologues. I understand from from like the fireside chat that seemed to go over well. So maybe we're going to do a little more of that. Feel free to let me know. Okay, so for anyone outside the United States, silliness has begun, right? In earnest. Here we have an individual. Let me see if I can get this up, the full view. Here we go. So the current president of the United States referred to Donald Trump's followers as, quote, garbage, unquote. So this individual, a fashion designer in New York, and I knew this was coming, has come up with garbage bag style clothing. And she's wearing it to go vote. And I would expect an extension of Halloween on Election Day. Many places there will be like 9-hour waiting lists to vote. Conveniently, certain polling stations in certain states and certain places where certain parties vote. I'm assuming this can be happening on both sides. Conveniently, there aren't enough election workers, and it's amazing that a country like this cannot figure out how to vote and count votes. Okay, that's the brighter side of it. Here's the darker side of it. A 60-year-old man just absolutely punched somebody wearing some of this Trump memorabilia, and whoever he punched appears to be in really bad shape, and the cops are saying this was random. So whoever loses this election is not going to be happy, and we have discussed social disorder on the show before. It's a big theme of Ray Dalio, so I'm not making it up. That's a real threat, and I think it has massive dollar implications. Okay? Now, as this guy talks about, private sector jobs fell for the first time on Friday. The jobs report was essentially terrible. The government's been cooking these numbers for over 15 months, meaning they release something that looks wildly positive, and then it's revised to show almost no full-time job creation. And in this particular case, either they decide to not hide it or they just couldn't, whatever, right? I think if it wasn't for government employment, the number would have been negative, meaning the economy actually lost jobs. All right. So not good. Okay. The policies of the past will not be cured automatically. It's a positive message for sectors in crypto, but anyone who's going to the polls thinking that we're going to like turn a dial and go back to 2017 automatically should probably think again. That's the most balanced way I can talk about this. That you got issues here with bonds, debt, the dollar, and fiat that could like explode as soon as the uncertainty of the election is over. Okay. These are two headlines that I think are really interesting. Goldman makes a big change to its bullish outlook, and the next U.S. president is going to face a slower economy and probably a terrible stock market. Terrible in the sense that, you know, everyone owns it. Everybody thinks it's going up only, and it's probably going to go like range trading at best, right? So even Goldman is saying that the bullish gold trade could be overdone, and I actually agree. In other words, if everybody is long, who's left to buy? And I don't think that's the case in Bitcoin or crypto. I really don't. I think this is like an abandoned asset class, especially if you look at the way it traded last week. Okay, so here we go with the predictions, right? Huge asset manager predicts 200,000 Bitcoin by the end of next year, regardless of who wins the election, which is code for the dollar has to go down massively. See, I don't think anybody will say it, and you probably can't say it on YouTube. You probably can't. Maybe not until Trump gets in. If Trump gets in office, then maybe you can talk about the dollar falling. I don't know, but you're not talking about it right now. Instead, you have to talk about 200K Bitcoin. And very simply, we just need to ask ourselves, what does the world look like if that's the case? All right. And then, you know, this will never stop, right? Like Polymarket says, you know, Trump is winning out of 4 out of 6 swing states. Okay. Right. In other words, the way the United States elections work, it's not the overall popular vote. It's who wins the popular vote in each state. And then each state has a certain weighting. So if you win a large state, you get a large amount of points. Let's call them points, right? You get a large amount of points or electoral votes. You know, if you win a small state, you get a small amount of points or electoral votes. Now, the popular vote in these states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, is all very close. Like all the campaigning in the United States over the last 3 months has been in these states, because whatever happens in these states determines the election, which is bizarre unto itself. And literally the whole thing could come down to Pennsylvania. Literally. Okay. Deutsche Telekom testing Bitcoin mining for surplus energy. So apparently a telecom company's got surplus energy and they want to test mining for crypto. Okay, so here's some silly stuff, right? The squirrel peanut, which, you know, I like the narrative that there was government overreach leading to somebody losing a pet, like losing a pet. That was also famous on Instagram. It's become this gigantic rally cry. Convenient happens 2 days before the election, but it has galvanized people. It has galvanized people to talk about government overreach, which, you know, is a very constructive crypto phenomenon. Okay, so everybody's placing their bet, right? This is now a casino, right? Crypto whales, you know, want the orange man because, you know, he's really catering to the crypto bro vote. If you ask me, the best reason to think that Trump might be pro-crypto is because Robert Kennedy is on his transition team, meaning if he becomes president, Robert Kennedy, who believes in Bitcoin, who believes in cleaning like special interests in Wall Street out of the SEC as an example, or helping improve our health by doing certain things. He was the Bitcoin guy originally, and he was the reason why Trump got into Bitcoin, because Trump wasn't going to beat Kennedy unless he adopted crypto, right? He figured that out very early. Okay, so, you know, elections and Bitcoin, right? U.S. voters prefer crypto president in 2024. There's a lot of people out there that are interested in crypto. Now, The big question in the United States is this, and I've already talked to 4 people in Texas, right? So Texas, for anyone who doesn't know, normally votes to the right all the time, like everywhere. Like there are sections in Texas where there isn't even a Democratic person to vote for. There's only Republicans. So whoever wins the Republican primary essentially is the only choice on the overall election day. All right. So a lot of people in Texas, though, have said, you know what, my vote doesn't matter. I'm not voting because Texas is going to go red or right either way. That's really interesting because I do think one of the social disorder aspects on this election is not to see who wins the point game in what's called the electoral vote, but also who wins the popular vote. Like, I think if Trump wins the electoral, the state by state game, but Harris, because of New York, California, and recent immigrants voting without identification, Harris could win the popular vote, meaning totaling up all the votes in the United States, not doing this state by state game. I'm just saying, if you're not from the United States, even if you're from the United States, that's really interesting. Okay, so everyone's flowing into crypto because everybody knows it's over for the dollar, period. Tokenization of assets is going to be enormous. I think the real world asset narrative is underplayed. Anything in DeFi that makes money, you want that. And then anything in real world assets that gets BlackRock and everybody on chain is probably underrated at this point. Okay, so the Trump dump, right? Everybody does the same thing and it's wrong. So everyone gets bullish. Bullish sentiment was 79%, and then $350 million in liquidations because everyone is leverage trading in a range. When the fact of the matter is, if BlackRock accumulates Bitcoin, you should accumulate Bitcoin, not investment advice, right? And then anything that you can find out there that makes sense, that makes money, that has future prospects, and I think it's a lot of these base coins. I really do. I mean, again, I know it's kind of drinking the Kool-Aid after doing this podcast. I actually think this group is in great position because a lot of stuff that's coming out on base, to me, I mean, not everything, but the stuff that comes out on base, it's almost like these projects are taking a direct path to being listed on Coinbase. So it feels like it's easier to find quality projects in the base network, virtuals being a good example. Okay. Countries are going to soon start buying Bitcoin. So are corporations. Like Michael Saylor is going to have company. Okay. Everyone is saying the same thing about Bitcoin. Everyone. So everyone says if Harris wins, you'll have a flash crash and it'll come back. If Trump wins, you'll have a blip up, it'll come off and then slowly, gradually trend higher. Everybody is saying the same thing, and that's all I'll say. Nobody knows exactly how this is going to plan out, especially if it takes 5 days to figure out who the winner is. Okay. Bitcoin mining stocks came off. Sort of I had a change of heart about crypto equities and crypto mining. And I actually think that anything connected to Bitcoin is more important than anyone thinks, right? In other words, if you have MicroStrategy's valuation, that's a signal from the market. If he's able to sell $21 billion worth of stock at this huge valuation, that's a signal. And the signal is, if you own Bitcoin, then you can turn around and say, hey, if you want all the Bitcoin, if you want to buy a huge amount of Bitcoin, you're going to have to buy my company. And that's going to mean higher valuations for miners, higher valuations for crypto hedge funds like Galaxy Digital. Any miner that's got a story and a ton of Bitcoin is an investment. It's like a sleeper investment. It's a sleeper investment, meaning it could go a lot higher than anybody thinks. So that's something to consider, particularly if you wind up with stock market volatility. Ethereum is like Amazon in the 90s. Okay, that sounds good, meaning it's like, yeah, we're in like the infancy stage of developing, even though ETH's been around for 9 years. Here's the deal. You need a killer application. You need something, Who knows? Maybe it's Polymarket that runs through Matic. I don't know. But ETH needs a killer application or it's not going to be able to rally, right? Like I was looking at ETH as a macro asset, and it's not a macro asset if every Jeet in the world is on Solana and no one's touching ETH for trading. So again, we're waiting for a killer application in Ethereum, and I continue to believe if Ethereum ever did start rallying, you would have a massive ignition in this market. But we're all getting old waiting, right? The Solana ETF gains momentum. So you're either going to have Solana or XRP as your next ETF. Believe it or not, I would almost rather see XRP in a way. It's kind of funny that I would say that, because XRP may have an advantage in a weird world because XRP is money. Bitcoin is not going to be the only form of money if the dollar goes down. It's not. There's going to be other forms of money. Okay. So Solana Global, I think, yeah, this is a company. It's like the Michael Saylor and the MicroStrategy Solana. Okay, so there's a company out there that's just buying a whole bunch of Solana. All right, now just talking about meme coins, talking about just general, I don't know. These are like my indicator memes. That's what I call them. So MicroStrategy, the MicroStrategy meme on a 4-hour chart. I love this for obvious reasons, right? Like a boomer like me can get his head wrapped around this. However, this is having trouble at a $50 million market cap. But, this did trade very well when the rest of the market traded badly. So let's just say you had 200K Bitcoin one day. Like, this is effectively the Michael Saylor meme coin. It's just a very interesting thing to watch. Okay. All right. So Peanut the squirrel. So again, for everybody who doesn't know, you've got an example of government overreach, meaning apparently a popular squirrel was captured by agents inside of his house and is now no longer with us. It has been very emotional for Americans. So Peanut, the meme coin, went to 100 million. You had 250% drops. And then you had the 70% drop. This is what Goatcoin did. Right? It was like Goatcoin did 340% drops. It did a 70% drop, and then it took off. So it remains to be seen. This now has a $52 million market cap, which is not that different from the Michael Saylor coin anymore. So Peanut, it'll be interesting to see if he's got legs. If it's got legs, right? Peanut has a lot of video out there already because he was an Instagram star. And if there's a rebellion against the system, like this could be the Trump token. This could be the token that takes off when we rebel against, I don't know, whatever's out there. And we'll see. We'll see if anybody wants to pay $50 million. I know I learned my lesson way back when I bought Normie and higher, like at dramatically, at prices, like, I basically bought the top, stopped out of that, thought I was crazy, and then they went to zero. We'll see if anything has changed in the meme coin market, or whether it's just a case of you can't really buy a dip. You have to buy stuff on a momentum as it goes up and then dump it before everyone else does. That's the meme coin market. Now, I happen to talk to somebody who thinks Goatcoin is blue chip. I talked about this in the fireside chat, that a lot of people think that some of the AI tokens that are out there are not that exciting anymore. And this AI meme, like outside of tech stuff, like say maybe virtuals, I don't know, that this could be the AI meme, according to one source. We'll see how it trades. Okay, Trump. This is the Trump token that so many people believe that. I said sell at 16, Buyback at 7. That didn't work. And now it's basically in this box. I mean, it's so oversold. It's so oversold, but the same person that, I don't know, that kind of gave me the 411 about GOAT was kind of like, I'm worried that this is sell the fact too, and we'll see. Right. My thinking was this was by the fact that people would want the Trump meme coin as money, that it would get listed on a major centralized exchange because no one has been willing to list it. Kraken listed Trump, which makes fun of Trump, along with Bowden. So they listed the two silly coins. No one listed this. And whales all puked it and got out. And again, like MicroStrategy, Peanut, GOAT, and Trump are 4 almost like leading indicator memes that I would use as like, a TA indicator. Okay, now I got just a couple of charts, right? Because I think you can do all kinds of charts, but you got an event coming up. So in Solana, you have a 13 and a 9 bottom going on a 4-hour chart. So I notice you can't see the labeling on this, but I do think a bottom in Solana is very interesting. I think this, meme mania could take off again. Big memes could take off. In other words, crypto hedge funds are going to go after something when this is over. There's going to be a Santa rally somewhere, right? Where? Bitcoin, base, and Solana and big Solana memes, right? And then if the dollar down move is big enough, you can start throwing in DPIN and real world assets, right? If those could follow Solana. I mean, that I think is that's kind of like a general game plan, right? Along with, like I said, anything base, Aave base, that kind of stuff. Let's stay with that. Okay, here's the dollar index. Kind of falling out of bed last night. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this doesn't move a lot, but that's a pretty substantial candle right before the election after the bond market. In other words, people are going to look at what's going on in the United States. People wearing garbage bags to the polls. People getting beat up just for wearing a hat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, eventually people overseas or the currency market has to look at this and go, oh God, can these people actually govern themselves? I mean, really? And I've been talking about this for literally a year. Okay, ETH versus Bitcoin. There is reason to expect, or at least think, that if there was a reversal or there was an upside catalyst in ETH, that it would be a meaningful bottom. I mean, this price action on ETH BTC weekly, technically the trend should have ended here. And all of this recently is just this massive overshoot, give up trade. The red on red is just people giving up. Is it justified? I don't know. The market will tell you. I mean, if the market gets this oversold and it's this excessive, ETH versus Bitcoin should base and then unwind the give up trade, because that's what happened throughout a large component of crypto, right? They unwind. Okay. Still seeing the Trump chart. Okay. Let me see. Guess we're going to have to go through all that again. Whoops. Shared the wrong screen. My bad. All right. So briefly, here's the 13 and 9 bottom in Solana, right? I think there's a lot of reasons that Solana and Bitcoin could bottom together. Here's the dollar index candlestick. Okay. On a 4-hour chart, that's a big move. The dollar may have gotten wind of, America, maybe the not so governable. Okay. ETH versus Bitcoin. As I was saying on the weekly chart, this trend should have stopped here, and the overshoot is so dramatic. You're in the Lux Algo discount zone on a weekly chart with a second round of heavy capitulation in ETH, right? In ETH, you desperately need something. And if you got it, you could get a meaningful bottom. All right. Hopefully you saw those charts. Can you give us your thoughts on the future Big Seven? Okay, I'm working on that. Okay, I mean, these are preliminary guesses, and I've already talked about it. I think it's Bitcoin Solana, obviously. It's Arrow and probably Aave. That's 5. And then you may have 2 or 3 more memes or 2 or 3 hot layer ones. Because we talked about this in the Kaizen podcast. I mean, if somebody can release a layer 1 that has automatically got a great following, builders, and a couple of memes, that to me would be more exciting than, say, Avalanche, which I really liked for security token purposes. But are we going to get upside out of that? Right? So this trade could be simpler than you think. And ironically, you're in the right place for, the base network. Steven is on his way to Austin. Feel free to DM me on Twitter. Would love to see it. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. Keeping it light and conversational. We probably got 4 or 5 days of light and conversational. We will see you soon.